Welcome to Gonzaga University. Thank you for joining us tonight to honor our emerging leaders. My name is Katie Mahoney, your host tonight and the program coordinator for the Emerging Leaders Program. For those of you who are not as familiar with it, Gonzaga's Emerging Leaders Program is offered to men and women identified within their organization as the rising talent in the company. That's all of our awesome participants up here. It blends professional development with practical experience, focusing on the individual company's goals. I would be remiss tonight if I did not first thank Dr. Melissa Loudon, former director of the Emerging Leaders Program. Melissa, thank you for your dedication to each aspect of the program. Know that you will be missed and that we wish you all the best in your new endeavors. Tonight you will hear from the program facilitators, the university's executive vice president, the 2011 cohort, the EOP advisory board members as well. But first, please help me welcome the Emerging Leaders lead faculty member who, by the way, stepped off a plane from Zambezi, Zambia less than 48 hours ago, Dr. Tony Andinoro.
Thank you, Katie. That's good like that. And thank you, Katie, for so much. Everything that you have done has just been amazing. Like she said, I just got back from Africa, and it's such a good feeling when you know you have this amazing person that you can entrust with all the things, and you can leave, and you know it's going to go fantastic. So I can't thank you enough for that, Katie. Truly, this program would not be as successful without your effort and dedication to making it the best that it can possibly be. So while on the subject of thank yous, I would also like to take the time to thank this individual in the front row, Mr. Greg Tarr. Greg, it has been an absolute pleasure and privilege to work with you. Your professionalism and experience are a constant, leading to program excellence, and what can I say? I love your stories. Truly, they are the best part of every ELP session for me. Thank you both for your colleagueship, your great humor, and passion that you've both taken the time to share with me. Please, everyone, a round of applause for Katie and Greg. So as a professor in the Department of Organizational Leadership in Gonzaga University, I teach this class called Leadership and Drama. And within this class, I use this quote. And it's a Shakespearean quote, and it's, "What is the city but the people?" I think this quote fits well for the Emerging Leader Program, as we attempt to make an investment in our most valued commodity, the people within our organizations. And not just an investment in their development as professionals, but also in them as people. I can tell you that this program has had a similar impact on me. As a lead facilitator, I've had the fantastic opportunity to learn from the participants in this program, as hopefully they have learned a little bit from me. But I think I use the word opportunity very intentionally. This program provides Gonzaga and I with the opportunity to realize the mission of education, an opportunity to actualize the underlying foundation that connects our university to the community in a sustainable fashion. Gonzaga subscribes to the idea of magis, or the constant development of the more. This is evident in the Emerging Leader Program, as the participants embrace the goal of holistic development in an effort to serve their organizations more effectively. So as I think about this program, I reflect fondly upon the last 9 months. And yet I am reminded by another Shakespearean quote, "To be or not to be, that is the question." And that was the question that we asked the participants, and then they answered it in October. Confidently and simply, when I look at them today, I know they say, "To be." You have all demonstrated your capability and the desire to lead your organizations, your commitment and responsibility to those you work with, and your passion and enthusiasm for developing yourself to be the best leader and person that you can possibly be. And that's the thing about leadership. It's incredibly tough to define. I bet if we went around the room right now and asked everyone how they defined leadership, we would get tons of different answers. And, you know, we could regurgitate some scholarly definition out of a book, and that would be great, but it wouldn't be our definition. You know, I think that's really what the process of leadership development is all about. It's about understanding ourselves and developing understanding for how to serve those that we work with. For me, my leadership definition is grounded in relationships. As Katie said, I recently returned from Africa. I was in Zambezi, Zambia, with this amazing group of students from Gonzaga, and we were teaching leadership. However, I was the one that received an education. It came in the form of a 7-year-old boy named Daniel. This kid had the uncanny ability to know where I was at any given moment. It was crazy. I'd be walking along, and all of a sudden, Daniel would appear out of nowhere right next to me. Now, you may have guessed that when I was in Africa, I ran into some situations where my language barrier caused a couple problems for me. Inevitably, though, Daniel was always there to help me. From finding plywood so I could build a backboard for a hoop, to helping me out when a guy would approach me to ask me something in Luvali. And that really sums up leadership for me. Daniel was a leader because he was there for me, and he provided me with the support so I could be effective in my role. Based on what I've seen from the ELP class of 2011, without a doubt, I know they will act as Daniel acted for me with those in their organizations. They will create a foundation of empowerment for those that they work with, and collectively raise their organization to new heights. As I said to Daniel many times, and now I say to you, Tuna Sakawila Mwane, or many thanks to you. I am truly excited about your potential to take each of your organizations to places that they were previously thought were unattainable. I thank you for your dedication, your effort, and what you have brought to my life. Good luck with those you serve, and I wish you all the best. Thank you. So now, it is my distinct privilege to introduce a person who embodies passion and dedication to the sustainable link between our community and the university that I love so much, Gonzaga. His commitment to this program and your development is actualized by his desire to speak with you tonight. He has earned degrees from the University of Kentucky and Yale University and was previously the Dean of Gonzaga Law School. Currently, he serves the mission of Gonzaga as the Executive Vice President. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Earl Martin.
So let's begin with fixing this. I'm a little more, I win the contest. I'm a little more mechanically inclined. Also, glasses. As it happens, it was at this event last year when I was speaking that I realized I needed glasses. I kept looking out at the audience and seeing these nice smiling faces, looking down at my notes and seeing nothing but blurred words. And so, well, on behalf of Gonzaga University, I want to welcome all of you to the 2011 Achievement Event for our Emerging Leader graduates. I also want to offer congratulations on behalf of the university to those graduates. So why don't we begin with a little round of applause. When I was invited last year to speak, they asked me to speak on the topic of why Gonzaga takes an interest in developing leaders. And I don't want to rehash all of those comments, but I think they're appropriate for tonight's event as well. So I'm going to divide my comments into two parts. First, to respond to that question, why does Gonzaga take an interest in developing leaders? And then second, I want to just share some of my observations on leadership for whatever they're worth. Last year and this year, I'll offer you 3 reasons why this university has taken this active interest in developing leaders. And as many of you, probably all of you know, we have a very extensive leadership program. When I put everything into the hopper, we have our undergraduate kind of exceptional program for the students to enroll in as kind of an extracurricular activity connected to their academic studies. We have master's program in leadership and organization and communication. We have a doctoral program. We have other programs embedded in other schools all around the ideas and principles and values and characteristics of leadership. And so it is something that we have embraced wholeheartedly and for many good reasons. The first of which is that as an institution with an interest in the common good, we have a natural interest in preparing our graduates to go out into the world and not only to do things right, but to do the right things. Whether they go out and leave us and become engineers or biologists or teachers, historians, military officers, politicians, whatever. We want them to not only to know how to do their work, but to understand the difference between right and wrong and to do it in that right fashion. And that's the kind of a core value of leadership, is that you do things the right way. Second reason why we embrace the field of leadership is that as an academic institution, it is only natural for Gonzaga University to take an interest in this growing field of leadership studies. This is a multidisciplinary field that continues to evolve, but recognizes in a very explicit way the interconnected activities of our life today. That no discipline stands in isolation from another, and that every discipline needs people within it who are leaders, who can maximize the value that the training that comes within that discipline can deliver to the rest of the world. I mean, that's what leaders do. They have this exponential effect on the communities. They are engineers who can lead others in projects to the benefit of all of us. And so we as an institution recognize the academic value of this field, and we want to embrace it, and indeed we have. And the third reason why we take an interest in this, which is somewhat connected to the first, but I think even deeper than the first, that as a Jesuit institution, Gonzaga works to develop leaders because it must, because it really is a matter of mission for us, because it is integral to who we are. And as the evidence for this, I want to offer you some comments that were made by Father Peter Hans Klovenbach, who was the former Superior General of the Society of Jesus. And he said, "The Jesuit purpose in education is to form men and women for others. The Society of Jesus has always sought to imbue students with values that transcend the goals of money, fame, and success. We want graduates who will be leaders concerned about society and the world in which they live. We want graduates who desire to eliminate hunger and conflict in the world and who are sensitive to the need for more equitable distribution of the world's goods. We want graduates who seek to end sexual and social discrimination and who are eager to share their faith with others. In short, we want our graduates to be leaders in service. And that has been the goal of Jesuit education since the 16th century. It remains so today," concluding Father Klovenbach's remarks. Well, I think in many respects, most of the words that I use can be found in the way that leadership has been described to you and as you have gone through this program. And it's certainly what we see within our other programs and within our faculty on a daily basis. Leaders in service. I mean, that's at the heart of a Jesuit education. It is why, indeed, we must, as a matter of mission, be engaged in this work. Well, let me now pivot to talk to you for a few moments about some ideas of leadership that come out of my own experience. And while Tony gave you a brief overview of my biography, I want to give you a little more depth to that so that you can understand the context in which I come to these remarks. So I am a lawyer by training. I did my undergraduate work and law school work at the University of Kentucky. And right out of law school, I joined the Air Force as a Judge Advocate General Officer, and I was on active duty for 8 years. And during that time, I prosecuted for 2.5 years, and then I was a defense counsel for the next 5.5. At that point, I got this weird notion in my mind that I wanted to go be a faculty member. And so that's what I set off to do, and I was lucky enough to achieve that and was a full-time teaching professor for 6 years, and then moved into administration and became Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at the law school I was at that time, which was Texas Wesleyan University School of Law in Fort Worth, Texas, before coming here to Gonzaga, being blessed to come here to Gonzaga and become the dean of this school in July of 2005. I held that position on a full-time basis for 5 years until last summer. The last year of that 5 years, I was also the acting academic vice president for Gonzaga, and then last summer moved into this new position of executive vice president for the university. I liken it to something along the lines of a chief operating officer. Most of the support operations in the university now report to me. Plant construction services, human resources, information technology services, admissions, student financial services, the ZAG shop, DREAM, which is our disability accommodation office, equal employment opportunity, the faculty and mail services, and most recently a reconfigured university purchasing office. So I'm in some respects, out of academics, but all that we do within the work that I now lead is in support of academics, because that's why Gonzaga is here. We are here to educate our students. I give you that bio because as I talk about my ideas of leadership, they have evolved kind of in connection with this work that I have performed. And when I arrived on campus here at Gonzaga, fact is, when I came here in January of 2005 and was interviewed for the job of dean, you're inevitably asked about your philosophy of leadership when you're looking at these types of positions. And I remember saying at that time a number of things, but two things in particular when it came to leadership that I really liked, although I hated to rely upon an advertising campaign slogan as a piece of my leadership philosophy. I've always liked the Nike campaign of just do it. And so I referenced that slogan, just do it, as something that informed my approach to leadership. And I also talked a lot about leading by example. And as I think back on it now, those two ideas about leadership really came out of my background. I played a lot of sports up through high school and continued playing sports, not in college, but in intramural, et cetera, just for recreation thereafter. And then I was this trial attorney, rather a prosecutor and defense attorney for 8 years, which is a very competitive adversarial process, so not unlike an athletic competition. I think both of those ideas fit nicely in an athletic context. And they're still both important to me, but I've come to realize that if I stop there, just with those two ideas in describing my philosophy of leadership, I've come up short. Because in some respects, both of those ideas are somewhat self-referential. Just do it. That is, just do the work. Quit complaining, quit whining, just do the work. Well, that doesn't account for the full context in which this work unfolds and all the challenges that you face in trying to lead others to success. Leading by example. Yeah, you should lead by example. If you expect people to work hard, you should be working hard. If you expect them to treat others with respect and civility, you should treat them with respect and civility. And I still believe in those ideas. But again, it's pretty self-referential. And I've come to understand that leadership is so much more than that. So let me talk just about a few of my lessons learned over the time since I've been here at Gonzaga, really from July of 2005 forward. Really learned the value of transparency in leadership. That is, in being willing to take the risk of sharing out information with others. That is, to invite them into the conversation for many different reasons. One, to recognize, first and foremost, that none of us are walking around with all the answers. That we need the help of others to be successful. We need their insight, their wisdom, their judgment, because collectively we're far smarter than we are individually. Secondly, that if you don't embrace transparency and share out information to the maximum extent possible, well, you create a vacuum, you create a void. And what fills in that void? Speculation, sometimes gossip, sometimes fear, many different things that will undermine your effectiveness as a leader. So I encourage you as you go forward and embrace your roles with this new knowledge and these new ideas and habits to embrace transparency as much as you can, to be willing to invite others into the conversation and to be willing to listen to them when you do. It's not enough just to invite the feedback. You must listen and be responsive to that. And yes, it does slow things down at times, and that was always probably my biggest challenge. I tend to lean forward. I'm ready to go, let's go. But there's great value in the process that is mandated when you embrace the idea of transparency, so I encourage you to do so. Another lesson learned, another idea that I think a lot about as someone who's trying to be a leader, and that is accountability. And this oftentimes can take on a negative connotation. That is, it starts to feel heavy to others or oppressive to them. But this is about being a leader and bringing others to a place where they can do their best and holding them accountable for doing so. And if they come up short, taking upon yourself part of the responsibility for getting them there, at least for giving them the opportunity to be there. And if they can't be, then it's incumbent upon you to do something about that. And sometimes that means having some really difficult conversations. And that's something that we oftentimes want to shy away from. That notion of accountability does mean a great responsibility on the leader to engage in those conversations that can be quite uncomfortable, but indeed for any healthy institution to prosper are necessary. And here at Gonzaga, it is perhaps, maybe, a particular challenge because we embrace such ideas as, a humanistic ethic, or we talk a lot about social justice. And oftentimes, sometimes, when we get into these accountability discussions, those values come up sometimes in opposition to the notion of accountability. Now that's a failure, I think, on our part to really understand what we mean by social justice or a humanistic approach to employment and accountability. And we must do a better job about defining those ideas and helping people understand that they actually fit together quite nicely. But that's a leadership challenge. And it's really going to be a leadership challenge whether you have these explicit values of humanism or social justice or not. You're going to have some values that do at times get put up in opposition to accountability. But as a leader, you've got to make sure you're defining those values in a way that makes them compatible, because no organization is going to prosper without appropriate accountability. Something I've been thinking about a great deal lately is the obligation on the part of any leader to make sure that he or she is spending significant time in what I would describe as strategic space. You heard the list of departments that now report to me, and there are things going on in all of those departments every single day. And there is a list of tasks, a mile long to be accomplished across all those departments, many of which I have a hand in. And I could, if I'm not very careful, get immersed in those tasks and never step up above them, never get above them, and think about what must we be doing today in order to position this institution to be successful 5 years from now. And yet that is the real reason why you occupy a leadership position. It's not exclusively because, certainly if I would argue should not even be predominantly because you have subject matter expertise over these areas. I don't know much about information technology. I'm learning a lot this year. I certainly don't know anything about boilers that occur in my plant construction services division, and I know very little about disability accommodation. I'm learning all of those things, but that's not why I was hired to oversee these departments. I was hired so that I could bring some strategic vision to these efforts, so that we could bring them together and they could be better together than they are apart. And that's my obligation, and that's hard, and you've got to be very intentional about carving out that space and that time for yourself and taking on that responsibility and being reflective and doing some homework that helps you understand the tools and the ideas and the information that you need to meet that obligation. This is one that, as I found myself getting busier and busier this year, I found myself reflecting upon that, if I'm going to meet my obligation, I've got to step up and make this and create this space. And it's certainly a project that's still ongoing. At the end of the day, when it comes to leadership, and I think this was reflective of the comments that Tony just made, it's all about the people. And it is all about your ability to lead others to success, not to lead to yourself to success, but it's about leading others to success. And indeed, if you do so, then indeed you have been a success yourself. But that's the key to being a leader. I've been nominated recently for a really nice program that has to do with leadership development at the executive level in higher education, and as part of that, I was asked to write what they call a candidate statement, and of course it had many different components that I was supposed to address, one of which was, what are your weaknesses? And my primary weaknesses, I expressed it in that document, is expressed as follows, that I have a deficit in wisdom as to how to respond to the full array of behaviors and expectations that emanate from my colleagues. Because it really is about your relationship with the people that you're supporting and trying to lead and how you manage those relationships to optimal effect. And it's your responsibility to do that. It's not, well, no. It is partly their responsibility to adapt to your leadership expectations. And indeed, for the appropriate expectations, they must. That goes back to the accountability idea. But you have an obligation to make that relationship work. It's at least a two-way obligation. It's certainly not one way that it's only their obligation flowing towards you and not yours towards them. And this is something that I continue to think a lot about and to work on and to try and be very intentional about how do I manage this relationship to optimal effect for that person and for the institution. And as you might expect, given these departments, I've got a lot of different people reporting to me, and they are all unique in many ways from each other. They come to their work with many different styles. They've all reported, frankly, to 4 different divisions before they came into this single division. And some of them have been closely supervised. Some of them have not been closely supervised for years. And so to bring all of them together and to start to establish the relationships and the expectations, et cetera, has been a real challenge. And I think it's this. I wouldn't have written this last year. But it's this year's experience that led me to write this statement as a weakness, because I recognize that I do have some serious work to do here. And at the end of the day, being a leader is about your relationship with others and your ability to support them in being better and being more effective than they are at the day that you meet them. And that's just, that's everything, at least as I see it now, that's where I have come. So in closing, let me once again congratulate our 2011 emerging leaders. I hope that if you didn't already think of yourself as Zags, you will from this day forward, and that you will always think of this university as your home, because we certainly think of it that way for you. I want to congratulate Tony, and Katie for their successful completion of another Emerging Leaders program. Welcome back from Africa. Wonderful that you're here safely. And I'll invite Katie back to the podium. Thank you.
Is that how you do it? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin, for being here tonight and for sharing all of that with us. There's so much that we can take from all that you offered there. One of the benefits offered to the participants of the Emerging Leader Program is the mentoring relationship. And it's a collaboration between area organization leaders who volunteer their time and offer to meet with mentees and encourage their growth and discuss what they're dealing with in their everyday lives. Our next speaker is the CEO of the Girl Scouts of Eastern Washington, here to share about her mentoring experience with the Emerging Leaders Program. Please help me welcome Pam Lund.
Thank you, Katie, for asking me to do this tonight. I realize that I've done this for 3 years now, and I've had some wonderful experiences, and I do this both for just a personal gratification is one of the big reasons I do this, as well as professionally, it's very rewarding. I recall when I first attended the graduation of this program 3 years ago, and one of my observations was there were no graduates that were women. A lot's changed, and that's a really big growth of this program. And I've had 3 mentees, 2 men, and Becky Barnhart is working with me this year. And I do believe that we all mentor daily, whether we do it formally or informally. And people are always watching us as leaders. And we always tell our Girl Scout college staff that whatever they do, the girls are watching. So you'd better be careful about what kind of leadership that you're providing in that. We also, being a mentor, I've had the opportunity to share stories, perspectives, and philosophies. I have found that stories have been very helpful to the mentees that I've worked with, because sometimes we don't know a lot about each other's business, but it's really helpful to talk about a circumstance, to say how are things going at work, or what's going on with your project, because by asking questions and sharing stories, the feedback that they've given me is that that's really helped them, because it gives them a real life example. The other thing is a lot of our mentees don't actually know what to ask a CEO when you first sit down and meet with them. It's a little bit intimidating, I think, sometimes, and so we have to help, our mentees, understand that, we're real people just like everybody else. And we really want to help them and help them ask the right questions and go forward with that. So often I would ask, what's your biggest challenge at work? And another important thing about the relationships that I have had, and something I like to do, is to talk with my mentees about politics. Politics is something that not many books are written about, and I'm talking about politics with a small p, because we have them in every workplace. And nobody can tell you how to get in and out and through and all of those kinds of things. And you learn it as you go, from the time you're a child until you leave this earth. But the reality is, they're often confusing. It's gray matter. There's nothing logical about it at all. And it's important, I think, for young professionals to learn from those of us who've been through that and around it a few times, to be, a sounding board and help them understand that if they haven't run into it, they certainly will, and we want them to be prepared. I think as a mentor, I also want to help participants begin to solidify the qualities and character that they want to model when they move up in their career. Again, we don't usually know how much we're really being watched by those who watch us. And you'd be amazed at how many people, repeat the behavior that they see. And that happens in families, with children and parents as well. It also has provided a wonderful opportunity to to introduce civic and philanthropic opportunities. My mentees have attended Rotary clubs. Becky attended one of our fundraising luncheons for Girl Scouts to learn what that was about on that side of it. I was honored by CH2M Hill this year because my mentee Joe Foote last year was a leader, and he took the idea to Roger Flint and said, "Is Pam a Paul Harris Fellow in Rotary?" And I wasn't, and so he took that idea through, and they made a contribution in my name to Rotary for the volunteer work that I've done here with this program. And so thank you, Roger and CH2M Hill, for providing the venue and then really helping him fulfill that idea. And so there's lots of different ways to work with that, and it's just very personally rewarding to me, and I really appreciate all the companies who are investing in their people here. I think it's the only way that our world is going to stay, hooked together as we move forward here. And so, again, I really appreciate it. If you ever have a chance to be a mentor and you haven't been, I would encourage you to do so. And thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, Pam. It's great to hear about the mentor experience because they are such a vital part of the program. And now, perhaps the biggest reason we're all here tonight is to hear from our program participants, who I know are all anxiously waiting to share part of their leadership journey with you. Tonight, each emerging leader will talk a little bit about their program projects, which is the individual's company focus component of the program. Our first emerging leader presenting tonight is the Director of Information Systems and also, great achievement here, resident fast cart champion for Rose Hour Supermarket. Please help me welcome Steve Lee.
Thank you, Katie. Good evening. As Katie mentioned, my name is Steve Lee, and I'm the Director of Information Systems for the Rose Hour Supermarket chain. I oversee the technology operations for our 20 stores, soon to be 21 stores, and the corporate offices here in Spokane. It's not often that you get the opportunity to go to your boss and present a project that could dramatically reduce the expenses of your company and get a full return on your investment within 6 months of that full implementation. I was lucky enough to have that opportunity. The project I've selected for my Emerging Leader program is the electronic direct store delivery, and it will reduce the bottom line expenses for our company. This project will convert our current manual processes of receiving vendor products and goods into our back rooms to an electronic system of scanning those goods as they arrive. This new process will not only more accurately track and determine what is coming into our stores, but it will also match up the vendor's price with the negotiated price that we've previously agreed upon and that resides on our systems. It will give us more vision and accountability than we have ever had before. A conservative estimate of how much this project will save our company has come in at over $1.5 million a year annually. Now, $1.5 million is a lot of money in my book. A sister company of ours developed a similar program and deployed that in their stores several years ago. they continue to see those types of annual savings in their company. FMI, or the Food Market Industries, has also conducted studies and published reports echoing those similar findings and savings for other grocery store chains that have implemented an electronic scanning process in their operations. It has certainly been an exciting project to be involved in, but it has definitely had its hurdles and challenges. The biggest challenge to this point has been the complexity and the interwoven processes within our company. Backdoor receiving actually starts at the earliest level of negotiating with our vendors. Other departments, like pricing, security, accounts payable, have important roles in this process, and obviously the stores play a big part with their personnel. We have also found that this project requires some facility upgrades for our stores without any room for receiving areas. It comes down to this being one of the biggest projects that I have ever undertaken. To that point, the Emerging Leaders Program has really provided value. Throughout this program, our group has been exposed to industry experts and leaders. The sharing of their skills and their guidance from our program educators has been helpful first in helping me understand better about my strengths and challenges as I relate to those around me. And secondly, by providing insight and tools to more effectively work with other personalities and groups that are involved in projects like this one. I have an important new tool set to tackle projects, and that will be important as we continue to move forward with projects like the electronic direct store delivery. I'd like to thank my boss, Jeff Phillips, and my Rosars company for sponsoring me in this program. I couldn't have done it without his guidance and support. I would also like to thank the program sponsors and teachers for their insight and the sharing of their knowledge and life experiences. Finally, to my fellow participants, you are a great group of individuals, and I wish you all the success in your positions with your company. And with that, I'd like to introduce our next emerging leader participant. Her position is the indirect lending manager for Horizon Credit Union, and she has been with the company for over 7 years. She is a bundle of energy and a lot of fun to be around. Please raise the roof for Amber Berger.
Thank you, Steve. Horizon Credit Union continues to anticipate the needs of our ever-changing marketplace. We have come to realize that most consumers no longer come to a branch to sit at a desk and fill out a loan application. Most consumers place convenience, accessibility, and ease just as high of a priority as superior member service. Taking this into consideration, the project I've chosen with the support of management is to develop a business plan focused on non-present members. A non-present member is defined as someone who has joined the credit union through a delivery channel other than a branch. Examples include applying for a loan online, using our website, or contacting us by phone. We also have partnerships with various boat, RV, and auto dealerships, allowing the entire loan process to be completed conveniently at the point of sale. The primary goal of this project will be to strengthen and improve these channel usages through increased efficiencies, at the same time allowing us to be competitive and remain cost effective. Our internal analysis has shown that internet applications and indirect lending continue to produce high loan volumes. In the research stages, I've defined what we believe to be the optimum workflow, and I'm currently in the process of choosing the tools allowing us to achieve that desired outcome. Technology is a large component to making this plan successful. The products we choose will need to allow us to produce an excellent service experience in order to set us apart from other financial institutions. Key elements, such as limitations of the systems, functionality, and the overall cost will be determining factors in the final selection process. This plan complements some additional projects the credit union is currently focusing on, such as a consumer lending workflow and service selling initiatives. The implementation and execution of this plan will result in considerable value to the credit union, our existing members, and potential members as well. Convenience and expedited response times are just a few of the added enhancements members will see. As a consumer myself, I feel that adding value to our lives in some aspect is always a positive experience. This project, as well as the Emerging Leaders Program, has challenged me in ways I've never imagined.
I believe the credit union will receive value in 2 areas. The most obvious is increased efficiencies and streamlined processes. The second benefit, which is equally important, is the professional development of the credit union staff. Having heard wonderful feedback from participants, from coworkers that have participated in years past, I was eager, yet a little nervous, to start the journey for myself. Beginning with our retreat and continuing to our monthly meetings and mentor visits, I'm constantly impressed at the helpful information being made available to us. From guest speakers to case study reviews and others in the group sharing their experiences, I take away relevant information every time. Each session, I learn ways to sharpen and build on my current management skills, all the while developing new expertise to incorporate to my daily career. One of the most important lessons I've learned, and make every effort to remember each day, is the difference between being a manager and a leader. This program has clearly defined that for me. It is a choice, and I choose to be a leader. To any prospective participants and any employers questioning whether this program is beneficial, in my opinion, it is. This program is career-changing. I am grateful for this opportunity and will carry the skills learned with me forever. Our next presenter is the accounting analyst at Avista Utilities. She's been developing herself as a leader, and her involvement in the ELP program is part of reaching her goal. Please join me in welcoming Gudu Fischer.
Hi, everybody. As Amber says, my name is Gudu Fischer, and I work at Avista Utilities. I've been employed there for the past 3 years, and from the day that I started, sorry, I got my stuff backwards here. From the day I started, I've been tasked with several projects that I knew very little about. What I learned is that I can start a project and get it done with very little supervision and very few issues after implementation. I also realized that my communication skills needed some improvement. So my project is different because I'm working on a skill set that will produce results that bring improvements to my professional work and efficiencies to others. My goal was, and still is, to present financial information to my coworkers so that they can become a part of the financial process. When I began this project, I had several thoughts in mind. Several friends suggested the Emerging Leaders Program. I joined Toastmasters in March. One of my mentors suggested writing in a journal. And another thought was to get honest feedback from my coworkers on my effectiveness in meetings. Let me share with you what each one of these avenues has done for me. Last fall, I talked with Jody Morehouse, who was a former student of the Emerging Leaders Program. She enjoyed the class a great deal and got a lot out of it, and suggested that I get in contact with Melissa Loudon, the former director of the program. Melissa came over and talked with me, and I realized that this is a great place for me to start on my project. I joined Toastmasters to help me with my public speaking. I gave a presentation at the third meeting, which was an icebreaker. I was supposed to introduce myself to the group. I was very nervous about it, but I was told that we talk about ourselves often, so I just needed to organize my thoughts and tell the story of me. I stood tall, I was excited, I smiled, and I looked people in the eyes as I gave them my story. It was a lot of fun, and afterwards I was really excited that I had completed it. I've also been writing my observations in a journal, and it has pinpointed communication good and bads. This came in handy when I was working with an individual from the information systems group. We just couldn't seem to get on the same page, and we were both getting very frustrated with each other's lack of understanding. I wrote in my journal what I was encountering and realized that we needed someone to help us maneuver through each other's competencies. We needed someone that didn't have the accounting skills nor the computer skills that either one of us had, and it worked great. With regards to receiving feedback, I asked my peers to give me feedback on my presentations. It was interesting to me how many of my peers felt that I did really well and that I was effective. They shared with me that I was always well organized, I was direct, and came to the point. I, however, encountered that different perspectives of what people thought was important, and realized that good presenters create environments where participants are allowed to express their thoughts and concerns, which then leads to better communication and understanding. I'm encouraged how this has all come together. I have noticed that my coworkers understand the financial information that I am providing them, and they are enjoying the knowledge that they are acquiring. With this understanding, they're avoiding the rework and frustrations of the misunderstandings, and they're helping others to understand. So what I feel I've done is that I've taught them to fish instead of doing the fishing for them. The Emerging Leaders Program and all that I've learned from Dave Raymer preparing us for this presentation, to the various speakers that Melissa and Tony and Honora have brought in, to the real-life experiences of Greg Tarr has shared with us, have all been great start for me to becoming a better communicator. My classmates and I are sad to see this class come to an end for us. And as you have heard and will continue to hear, we are all taking something very important from this class that will benefit us in our quest to become better leaders. Our next speaker is a civil transportation engineer and project manager at CH2M Hill. He is a native of Spokane, whose passion is planning and implementing solutions that benefit our community. Please help me welcome Mark Brower.
Gudu, that was wonderful. Look at that, engineer. Small. What can I say? It's just me. As Gudu mentioned, my name is Mark Brower, project manager for CH2M Hill at Spokane here. My company provides diverse turnkey infrastructure services to governments and industry worldwide. That's a mouthful. Let me tell you what I mean by that. We really offer infrastructure services from planning, design, construction, all the way out to operations and maintenance for all sorts of different facilities and infrastructure. It's a fairly large company and a fairly diverse amount of services. So as such, we're organized by discipline. And what this means, well, for example, I am a transportation business group person in my company. That's the group that I belong to. So what this looks like in our Spokane office is we have 30 folks in the office, but those folks really represent about 6 different business groups that operate in a lot of ways fairly independently under one roof. So I initiated a project through this Emerging Leaders Program that's been endorsed by my company, and the idea is really to help start bridging some of the communications gap that happens between these different groups, and really seeks ways to find more regular opportunities to coordinate with regard to business development and actually generate some more business together. And the idea is very simple, so I'm a simple kind of guy. Just getting those groups together for a quarterly lunchtime session, really, and having that session be hosted by each one of the business groups in our office. The agenda for each particular meeting would be to focus on that particular business group's business development strategies. In other words, what do they want us to communicate to our clients? What do they want us to communicate internally about those particular, about their business development strategies? Things such as key market differentiators, emerging trends and technologies, collaborating on ways that we can approach clients as a company rather than as one particular business line. So in terms of the cost, this is a very simple idea, very low cost. $200 I'm thinking for a pizza type lunch every quarter, so $800 to the company in a year. And in terms of benefits, you've got immediate collaboration between your groups in your office, which is never ever a bad thing. Secondly, I believe there's really short and long-term return on investment opportunities. I think short-term in the fact that I think there's even regional clients we serve today, actually underserved today, by just using one business group. So beyond the opportunities for real return on investment and improved collaboration in our office and our company, the value of this Emerging Leaders Project to me has been a couple of things. One, starting to understand the different groups and starting to bridge those gaps in the silos is extremely rewarding, and I'm learning a lot. Secondly, interacting as an emerging leader in my company with both peers and several layers above me in a very large company is offering opportunities that I otherwise probably wouldn't have, and I'm very appreciative of that. In terms of the Emerging Leader Program, there's so many things that we all are getting out of this. I'm trying to summarize them in 3 key takeaways. First of all, understanding myself as a leader. At the beginning of the program, we all took professional assessments, and the assessments really gave us real information, both from ourselves and from external folks and how they view us, on our leadership strengths and our challenge areas. And what a perfect place to start. Most of us hadn't gone through anything like that before, and now you have this better understanding of yourself that you can build upon. I want to thank Roger Flint for sponsoring me into the program and for his continued mentorship of me in the office. He gives me lots of ways to emulate. He's a wonderful leader. And he's always encouraging me to exploit my leadership strengths and then continue to backfill some of those challenge areas. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Roger. Secondly, my mentor connection with Terry Sparrow has been another wonderful part of this program. Terry's a very practical thing. You can't be here tonight, so I'm thanking him, and he's listening to me out there somewhere. But Terry's a real practical thinker, a very knowledgeable guy, and just has wonderful stories. And Terry is also very different from me in one big regard. Terry is a risk taker. This is the guy who went in and battled unions and, for the grocery chains and things like this, and I am a risk-averse engineer. And so Terry, when we sit and have conversations about this and that, and he'll ask me something, he'll say, well, why don't you do something about that? Okay. All right, Terry, yes. No, it's good for me, and I really do appreciate that. So if you notice some changes in me, Roger, pushing back a little bit on some things, you'll know why. Lastly, the number of leadership tools in my toolbox has really grown too. You've heard some of this already tonight. But we do have the benefit in this program of having monthly sessions where we do get members like yourselves from the community to come in, community leaders to teach us valuable things, as well as the organizational leadership department from Gonzaga to teach us valuable things like managing conflict, managing change, developing subordinates, working on some of our challenge areas like public speaking, and those things which I really, really appreciate, and I think we've all grown quite a bit during this program. And again, to the last person in our cohort, we've talked about this. If given the opportunity, I think each one of us would continue this type of program on a monthly basis indefinitely. And to me, that's really the testament to the program. And we should thank Gonzaga University for that program. Thank you. Our next speaker comes to us from Jubilant Hollister Steer. This is the only pharmaceutical company in the Inland Northwest. She's a quality person and also the quality control manager at Hollister Steer. Please help me welcome Barbara Berglund.
Thanks very much. We should have done this in height order or something, don't you think? I'm a shorty. Some people will tell you that. Thanks very much for being here. Good evening. I hope you guys are all comfortable and not tired of sitting in the same spot. Jubilant Hollister Steer. Hollister Steer is a brand name that has been recognized as the specialty allergenic pharmaceutical manufacturer for more than 80 years. In the last 10 years, we've been building our reputation as Jubilant Hollister Steer, a contract manufacturing organization for pharmaceutical products. Jubilant has done this. They've built the reputation based on a strong core competency from the allergenic line. In addition, they've gained the technology and the talent to produce quality manufacturing products, pharmaceutical products. I'm lucky enough to be a part of this. Currently, I've been working on a project for the last year in collaboration with a colleague and a partner in this business. My colleague works at the front end of the business. She does development work in pharmaceutical manufacturing, and Jubilant Hollister Steer does finishing work. And together, what we've done in collaboration is prepared a 2-day intense course that's highly technical in the field of lyophilization or freeze drying of pharmaceutical products. Without going into detail about what that means, it is very important to our clients, both her clients and mine, which happen to be the same people. And so because we're collaborating and because we already have a partnership between our companies and because we share clients, it's been a great relationship. The project, however, has not been easy. First of all, it requires a deep technical knowledge. You cannot run a course like this with a cursory knowledge of the subject matter. So that's been something of a deepening for me personally. Also, she works across the continent on the other side of the U.S., so we have time differences, we have differences in what the company requirements are, what her priorities are. She travels often, and she's very well known in the industry. However, we did manage to succeed, and the project is essentially complete. Our training course is 2 weeks from today, as a matter of fact, so everything is done for that. How does Jubilant Hollister Steer benefit from my participation in this program? Well, let me tell you. First of all, our name now is associated with a deeply technical field, which is important to our clients. Our clients are attending this course, our prospective clients, our current clients, and so now we are associated with this very highly desirable field. In addition, my own knowledge has deepened, and that makes me a greater asset for Jubilant, which is a real plus for Jubilant Hollister Steer. Also, in addition to those things, at no cost to Hollister Steer, we have been able to establish this connection with both my knowledge, but also a collaboration with our partner. And so that is a real positive. And finally, this course should be offered routinely over the next couple of years, periodically, and that means that our name will only become strengthened with our clients, and we will become just a part of what that means, and it's a real appeal to our own clients. I'd like to thank Jubilant for sponsoring me in this program, allowing me to attend the Emerging Leaders Program. It's been quite valuable. There have been, as mentioned, and as will be mentioned continuously, a lot of tools there. But the greatest thing that has been offered to me is my mentor relationship. My mentor, although he and I are in completely different fields, has had absolutely no trouble with very little information understanding the cultural barriers that exist within my own company, small issues, large issues, anything that's come up. He's been able to advise me and really help me along, so I'm very grateful to that. So thanks to Hollister Steer as well as the Emerging Leaders Program for this opportunity. Okay, and now I'd like to welcome our next speaker. He comes to us from the Hecla Mining Company, where he's the corporate accounting manager. And I'm not supposed to tell you he's a history buff, so I didn't tell you guys that. Let's warmly welcome Jason Heidt.
Thanks, Barb, and good evening, everyone. Barb said history buff because that was going to be a lead-in to a joke that I was going to add in. I'm afraid to say that I'm going to chicken out on the joke and keep it straight tonight. But thanks anyway for that, Barb. It's anticipated that all public U.S. companies will implement IFRS within the next 4 to 7 years. And Hecla is no exception to that. Now, 4 to 7 years, that seems like a long ways out there, but keep in mind that this has been called the biggest change in public accounting in the last almost 80 years. That's a big deal for us accountants, right? The next thing to consider is that the SEC is still trying to decide the best implementation approach, and they have not yet issued a concrete timeline. In addition, implementation will come at least partially through a phased-in convergence of rules over the next 4 to 7 years. But that process has already started. So given these factors, it's important to see why we need to start planning for this now. The project of planning for implementation of IFRS will involve monitoring these convergence efforts that I mentioned and educating ourselves on IFRS developments and the resulting new rules that will come about. In addition, we will need to analyze these new rules and document our findings. We made progress in these areas by taking in multiple webcasts offered by public accounting firms about IFRS developments. In addition, 2 members of our team at Hecla visited the University of Idaho and gave a presentation to a master's level accounting class about IFRS. I've also been monitoring industry-specific rule proposals through correspondence with a mining industry working group. Next week, we will visit one of our operations, and during that time, we will talk with them about how IFRS may impact us. So we've been ramping up our knowledge. In addition to that, we've made some preliminary assessments in 2 of the major accounting difference areas, revenue recognition and lease accounting, and we're now working on finalizing our analysis in those areas and documenting our findings. Going forward, we will need to continue these efforts as new rules come about, and then also develop a detailed implementation timeline once the SEC issues their final rules. These planning efforts will benefit Hecla by reducing implementation costs and audit fees during that implementation period, and also allowing us to maintain our flexible reporting schedule, which aids us in our marketing efforts. It's been an absolute privilege to take part in the Emerging Leaders Program, and for that privilege, I'd like to thank Hecla Mining Company. I see our CEO, Phil Berger, stepped in just in time to catch me. Thanks a lot for that, Phil. But I really do appreciate the opportunity. Our CFO, Jim Sabala, is also here, so thank you, Jim. I'd also like to thank my mentor in the program, Kirkwood Gaines with Hollister Steer. He's really been gracious with his time and knowledge, and he's the guy over here on the crutches, so I appreciate you being here in spite of that, and heal up soon. Finally, I'd like to thank the Emerging Leaders Program group, Tony, Melissa, Katie, Dave, and Greg, all the presenters that we've been exposed to over these last 6 months, and this group of participants. You've really been a great group of people to learn from over the last 6 months. There's a lot that I'm taking away from the program. Maybe the first is that I no longer have to be a bandwagon Gonzaga fan. I'm a University of Idaho Vandal at heart, but it is nice to have a little connection to Gonzaga now. So go Zags. I've also really gained an appreciation for just how important it is for us, especially for myself being a relatively new manager, how important it is for us to step away from our daily routines and think about those things that will help us become more effective leaders and communicators. That's not something that we always think about every day on our own, but it's something that this program offers. The program does an excellent job of making our time valuable. They select very relevant topics like conflict management, strategic planning, and talent development, just to name a few. And then they address these topics by bringing in excellent presenters who address the topics through an equal mix of academic theory and real-world experiences. I would definitely recommend the Emerging Leaders Program to anyone who has a chance to take advantage of it. Our next emerging leader has been with Integris Architecture for 9 years and is currently a project manager and just all-around architect extraordinaire. Please help me welcome Becky Barnhart.
Thank you so much, Jason. And thanks for not telling one of your accounting jokes. Even an architect extraordinaire can't follow that up. I guarantee it, I'm not that funny. The architecture profession has a long-standing tradition of mentorship and to grow young architects, essentially from graduation school to licensure. And to get you from point A to point B really requires a very large knowledge basis and a broad range of experiences that you gain throughout that time. Now, this used to be obtained via casual relationships. You would get two architects standing side by side, huddled over a set of drawings, drafting away, building a very tangible piece that you could learn from. But today, with the insurgence of technology, we tend to do this in the 3D world, and you don't see that process build. So the mentorship relationship has really changed. To further complicate this, time is a factor in licensure. By the time most architects have graduated from college, we've lost 45% of the people that are interested in licensure. 45%. I mean, we've almost lost half right there. So today, I pose to you that a much more deliberate mentorship process is required. And that is the focus of my project for the ELP. My project consists of two components, an onboarding component which essentially is a very simple diagram that we can take and sit down with a new recruit and describe the process of how you go from school to becoming an architect in a very simple way. The goal here is to not only provide a better awareness of how that process works, but also to let people know the benefits that Integris provides during that process and to encourage that licensure to happen that much more quickly. The second component is a training component, and that really is about peer mentoring. And with this component, we would like to set up a series of sessions wherein our people get together, both more seasoned individuals as well as new recruits into the firm, and we talk about, try to fill in gaps in experience that they might not be getting on a day-to-day basis. This not only supports our professional development program within the firm, but it also helps our principals and other licensed individuals obtain continuing education credits, and again, it encourages that process of licensure that much more quickly. Now, as Jason mentioned, I've been with Integris for 9 years, and I started there bright-eyed and bushy-tailed right out of college. So this is something that's very near and dear to me. It's something that I kind of found my way through, and I'm really very passionate about bringing to others within the firm. So my time in the ELP has really given me the chance to heighten and leverage my personal talents into this project. Our discussions on communication skills, generational dynamics, and most of all my time with Pam, which I've really, really appreciated, have helped me to form the basis of this project. And it's something I will carry with me for many years. So thank you so much to Integris for believing in me and giving me this great opportunity. All my fellow participants, I can't thank you enough. I really value our relationships and all the jokes and fun we've had during this time. Our licensed individual, a licensed architect, is a very marketable asset for our firm. And the goal of my project is to encourage and assist that licensure process to happen that much more quickly. And in a tough recruiting environment like Spokane, the mentorship program at Integris will help us to stand apart from our competition. Our last presenter this evening is the fleet manager with the Vista Utilities. Please help me welcome Chris Schlotthauer.
Thank you, Becky, AKA Architect Extraordinaire. As Becky mentioned, my name is Chris Schlotthauer, Fleet Manager for Vista Utilities. The project I've chosen for the Emerging Leaders Program is internal versus external labor models. We currently inspect, maintain, and repair over 1,200 assets with both internal and external labor. The split's about 50-50. After analyzing the costs, if we were to increase internal labor and decrease external labor, we would be able to save over $500,000 annually while improving customer service. After looking at both models, internal labor is less expensive, the quality of work is better, there's no back and forth between vendors, we have a better working knowledge of our own equipment, and there's no middleman, which all combined provide superior customer service. We still need to maintain about 12% external labor for specific repairs. If we were to increase our internal mechanics by 9 mechanics, the split would look more like an 88% internal and 12% external labor model. As stated before, this would provide over $500,000 savings annually and improve customer service. Our goal in fleet service is to provide our clients with the same type of customer service and satisfaction that they would expect when they go to a dealership with their personal vehicle, to get it done right, to get it done for a reasonable cost, and to get it done on time. And an internal labor model would provide that. In summary, An internal labor model is an all-around better fit for Avista, Fleet Services, and all of our clients. I've communicated the benefits through the savings it would provide, along with the improved customer service. This project's been on my mind for a while now. And with the skills I've learned through the Emerging Leaders Program, I'm now more confident with bringing this information before my organization. That confidence started the very first time our group met at a retreat that kicked off this program. It was there where I was introduced to individuals and mentors like Greg Tarr, former CEO of URM, who proved to be a wealth of knowledge. With his real-life case studies that he was able to provide to our group on a monthly basis, my confidence continued to grow with the likes of Dave Raymer, speech consultant, and his quest to make every single one of us the best speaker we possibly could be. Those are only two of the many talented individuals I've got to meet through this entire course. I'm sure everybody had great mentors, but I have to say mine took the cake. Jeff Adams, CEO of Horizon Credit Union, was there for me throughout the entire program. The amount of time and dedication he spent with me as a CEO of a large corporation was incredible. All the experiences, stories, individuals I've met throughout this program, I'll be able to carry on throughout the rest of my life. I'll continue to pull from those experiences and benefit not only myself, but others around me for the rest of my career. If there's one thing that stood out throughout this entire program, it's the ability to communicate effectively. Whether I'm trying to create a new process, implementing change, trying just to get buy-in, making sure everyone is engaged, informed, and on board is absolutely critical. Through the Emerging Leaders Program, I now put more emphasis on communication. And because of the Emerging Leaders, I'm now more confident with bringing information and projects like this one before my organization. So I'll finish by saying thank you to everyone involved with this incredible journey. From the organizers, the mentors, all the wonderful speakers we've got to experience, my fellow classmates, and last but not least, individuals like Diane Quincy, Don Kopczynski, and Al Fischer, who believed enough in me to represent our company and provide this wonderful leadership opportunity. And now I'd like to invite Katie Mahoney back to the stage so we could recognize the other members of the Emerging Leader Program, our mentors.
Thank you to all the participants. You have all put a tremendous amount of work into your growth as a leader, and it definitely shows. That was fantastic. Now, it's my pleasure to acknowledge this year's participating mentors. As you've seen with the evidence of our participants here, the mentoring relationship is a huge component and so beneficial. And we're so thankful to have the dedication of each of our mentors. I know that only a handful of you can make it tonight, but when I call your name, please stand so we can recognize you if you're here, except for Kurt in the back there. Pat Cerruti, I don't think could make it. Rick Beebe. Pam DeCounter and Terry Sparrow, who I believe are traveling. Jeff Adams. Oh, he was here, yes. Pam Lund. Kurtwood Gaines, who's our little warrior on crutches back there. And Kurt Runolfson, who also couldn't make it tonight. Thank you all for your commitment to our community's leaders. And our last speaker tonight. You've seen his name on the program, and you've heard many of our speakers tonight recognize him for his contribution to the Emerging Leaders Program. And many of you have the pleasure of knowing personally our next speaker. He's been the backbone of the ELP program, contributing his time, wisdom, care, and devotion. His monthly real-life case study sessions at each ELP event are always popular with participants because of his honesty, humility, and practicality. He serves as the Emerging Leaders Program advisor, instructor, and champion of the program. Please help me to welcome the former CEO of URM Stores and advisor to Gonzaga, Mr. Greg Tarr.
You know, it's kind of intimidating when you look at the staff for Gonzaga. You know, Katie, she's an NCAA champion, holds a record. We won't go into detail, but she can share it with you later. Earl, if you look at Earl's business card, after I heard everything he has, it's got to weigh at least 6 or 7 pounds. The Tonys are running around to different continents. I just don't want you to feel like I'm not fairly represented. I want you to know I am the 3rd assistant block captain of my neighborhood watch. Keep it in perspective. Yeah. Well, good evening. I want to welcome everybody here and thank you for coming to show support for the people that have gone through this program. Friends, families, co-workers, this means a lot. You probably have not seen all the work that has gone behind this that each of these individuals have done, but they worked very hard, and we tax them. They're long days. They're a full 8 hours. My purpose tonight is to talk about the value of what the Emerging Leader Program is, and what that value is not only to the individuals that went through this, but also to the companies themselves. So I'll start off with, have you ever had a life-changing experience? Most of us have in some form or another, but a life-changing experience, something that will impact you forever. Our goal when we created the Emerging Leader Program was to create that type of an environment where we could in fact have life-changing experiences. And tonight marks our 4th graduating class, our largest, with 8. So we've had 26 individuals that have gone through this program. And congratulations to each of this year's crop, the 8. You guys just did a fabulous job. I keep threatening some year we'll show you the videos from their first sessions because we film them each time, but you guys are getting really good, so it's a pleasure. And I'm sure you recognize too that collectively the oxygen level in this room changed dramatically. As soon as they were through speaking, have you noticed how there's a lot more normal breathing? So these are all good things. And we also want to thank the CEOs for sending us really some quality people over the years. It's been a pleasure. They're a fun group. They're hardworking, very dedicated. They challenge us. They help implement the program that we work with. And selfishly, as I'll let you in on a secret, I think we learn a lot more from them than ever we're able to impart on them. But let me talk a little bit about the companies that are represented here tonight, because it is kind of a unique situation, this class. We've got different companies that completely diverse backgrounds with the products that they are selling. We've got public utilities, architectural, pharmaceutical, engineering, banking, mining, and retail grocery. And so you might ask yourself, well, how can you possibly put together a program that will work with that diversity, if you will, of the different companies represented? Well, the reality of it is that is one of the real true benefits of the program, is that we do have this diversity, that the problems that Company A has is very similar to the problems that Company B has. And as we work through those problems, we find some really interesting opportunities, if you will, to share ideas and maybe keep people from going through the same problems. But there's a bigger problem. And the problem is with these diverse companies and the different programs, how is it that the Emerging Leader Program can differentiate itself from those that are available to others? And really the problem is fairly complex, but the answer is very, very simple. Studies show that managers fail not because of their technical knowledge, but managers fail because of their inability to communicate with others. So we're talking about the simple things of how do I relate, how do I understand, as we heard tonight, how do I listen to the different parties. So we're talking about the soft skills, basically how do we handle people. That really is the focus of our program. That technical aspect is what most companies spend their time on training their employees, technically how to do the job. And yet when managers fail, it's in the 80%, it's over 80%, almost 85% of the managers that are replaced is because of their inability to communicate and share their ideas with their employees. that's the focus of the Emerging Leader Program, is to dedicate ourselves to working on those soft skills. Some of the classes you've heard about, but I'll run through them quickly. Self-leadership, effective communication, conflict management, developing subordinates, managing change, and then a very important one, it's called balance in life. It's something that a lot of us take for granted, or a lot of us sometimes overlook. But work, family, and community are three very, very important segments to our lives. What good does it do for one of your employees to spend 60 or 70 hours trying to get ahead, only to find out that they got the promotion and they no longer have a family to share it with? That's real world. We need that balance in our lives. Tonight, your 8 emerging leaders talked about the following experiences and takeaways, if you will, of what they came away from the program. Increased profitability, managing change, the value of a personal mentor, communication styles, credibility, role modeling, and problem solving. These enhanced skills will give them the tools that are necessary for them to compete in the changing marketplace. So let me quickly recap what the benefits of the program are, because we've heard a lot about the Emerging Leader Program, but some of you may not have had the chance to fully be brought, if you will, from start to finish to what is the way it happens. We start off in the fall, as you heard, with a retreat. This is an opportunity for us to get together and eat and drink, and we get to know each other. We found that after a few libations, people are a little more apt to share. Yeah, and so some of us, and it's well controlled. So yeah. I just don't want you to think that this is all we do, but it's well controlled. Anyway, it starts with a project, and what we really very early on, Steve Pennick, who is here tonight, representing the personal assessments that we do with all the individuals. And so that person's going to hear about themselves from a complete stranger. And literally to the person they will say, they hit me right on the nose. They talk about the strengths, they talk about the weaknesses, and then that individual goes back and works with the company, usually with a boss, sometimes with the CEO, and we're looking for a project that they can work on through the course of the Emerging Leader Program that will allow them to personally stretch those areas where they need growth, and at the same time bring some kind of a hard benefit back to the company. So that's number one. Number two is just enhancing those managerial skills that I talked about on previously. And then third is to provide a confidential mentor. And a mentor, we've all had mentors. It could be a school teacher, could be a parent, could be a scoutmaster. We've all had mentors. Some are better than others. But our program's a little bit different in the sense that our mentors are all seasoned. I was going to use senior, but that's not fair to Pam. They're all seasoned vets, if you will, that have had success in the business world. So they're able to bring their experiences, if you will, straightforward in, and they can share those ideas with their mentees. You know, there's a great saying that time is a great teacher, but it kills the student. We need to capture that information, and the mentor-mentee relationship is a great way to do that. Fourth part of the program is our peer network of students and the faculty as well as the mentors. And these are relationships that, for all intent and purposes, really don't have an ending. We have some individuals, Rick Beebe, who still works with, I'm going to use the term loosely, still meets with the gentleman that he was assigned as a mentor 4 years ago. They meet twice a month for coffee and still share ideas, and I think both of them benefit from that greatly. And I think Rick will share with you that the information that is passed is not one way. It is truly a building that both people have benefited from. So it's a lifelong support. Increased business confidence that we talked about, and then enhancing your public speaking skills, like with Dave Raymer's program. Imagine, if you will, if you're an emerging leader student, you walk into a room with 8 strangers, a few staff, and here's a guy with a camera, and he says, "I'm going to film you make a presentation." It's pretty intimidating. However, I will say it also shows some great results, and so thank you, Dave, for the job that you do, and for each of the emerging leaders. Again, congratulations on your programs tonight. You guys, you aced it. Ladies and gentlemen, this program works. It is very, very strong. We've got 26 students that have gone through this thing, and I will continue to shamelessly pitch this program as being a valuable asset to any of your employees. I believe in it only because I've seen it work 1, 2, 3, and now our 4th consecutive year. So please keep that in mind. I also want you to know that our economy is in turmoil. Now, that should not be a shock to anybody. If it is, we have a great program starting in the fall, and we're going to work with it. And coupled with that, we also have an election year coming up. So, you know, half of what we hear is hardly ever true. This coming year, probably 99% of it will be suspect. But nonetheless, we're looking at some very formidable times ahead of us. And here's a very disturbing fact. When times get tough for companies, we start cutting expenses. That's normal. That's part of our, that's how we're brought up. Well, one of the problems with that is where do we usually start cutting our expenses? It's with training. And when you think about it, when times are tough, isn't that the hardest time to manage? Isn't that the time when we should be investing in our management? But that's not the way it always works. Unfortunately, we personally feel that the Emerging Leader Program really is just a dividend-paying investment, and we hope that you will too. So 2 questions. If you're an individual and you're thinking about becoming a part of this program, can you benefit from what you've heard tonight as far as the outlay? And the second part, if you're a company and you're thinking about sending somebody here, can you afford not to have your leadership skills of your managers enhanced? We feel that this program will provide all of those things to you. So our goal, to sum it up, is to make the individual stronger. We make the individual stronger, therefore the company becomes stronger. The company becomes stronger, therefore our communities become stronger. The Emerging Leader Program has been, definitely for myself, a life-changing event, as well as with the staff. We've talked about this many, many times. We look forward to next year's class. We look forward to seeing many of you here again. We hope that you will join us, and then maybe you too will have a life-changing experience. Okay, we're almost to the food and drink. We just one more little episode. So, Katie, if you'll come up, and Tony, if you'll join me.
Finally, time to honor the participants individually. And please feel free to applaud after each name. I think that they deserve that. Our first one, Becky Barnhart. Amber Berger. Barbara Berglund. Mark Brower. Gudu Fischer. Jason Heidt. Steve Lee. And Chris Schlotauer. And before everybody sits down, I'd like to take a moment, and he doesn't know I'm doing this, but to honor a very important person, and that's Greg Tarr. Greg and his wife will soon be moving to warmer climates, and thus we have to say goodbye to someone who's been an invaluable member of the Emerging Leaders community. Greg, I know I speak for everyone here and everyone who has worked with you, but from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for giving all that you have to the program. I'd like to thank each of our speakers tonight, Earl Martin and Pam Lund. Thank you to the ELP Advisory Board, Dr. Joe Albert, Greg Tarr, and to presentation coach, Dave Raymer. And thank you to everyone for attending tonight and joining us in honoring our emerging leaders. Let's give them one last round of applause.